Just a remarkable win for this Duke football team in the second week of the season. It takes 2 overtimes, but the job is done. Duke defeats Northwestern 26-20. They're 2-0 on the year. What a big win for the team. We break it all down here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils.
You are Locked On Blue Devils, your daily podcast on the Duke Blue Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody, and welcome into another episode of the Locked On Blue Devils podcast. My name is JJ Jackson. It is so great to have you here with us on Tuesday, September 10th, 2024. Locked On Blue Devils is your one-stop shop where we discuss everything going on in the life of Duke athletics. And this time of year, we're talking a lot about this Duke football team, who's now 2-0 to begin the season, following a double overtime victory over Northwestern. Today, our good pal Josh Cox from Duke Football Talks Section 17 podcast stops by to talk about the win for the Blue Devils. He was there in person. He'll recap his experience, tell us a little bit more about the atmosphere like Jordan Mann did on yesterday's show, and talk about what's coming up next for the Blue Devils in Saturday's game against UConn. If you have not done so already, please be sure to follow and subscribe to Locked On Blue Devils for free, wherever it is that you get your podcasts. Also, go ahead and make sure that you leave us a 5-star rating and review. Watch the show each and every day on YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Like this video. Share it with your friends. Again, all of your support means so much to us here at Locked On Blue Devils. So, without further ado, here he is, the aforementioned Josh Cox, back with us once again. I hope you're doing well, man. I know the Windy City was a little bit windy for those watching on television. You got to endure that for yourself, man, but you walk away watching a Duke football victory. Good to be 2-0, man. Good to see you.
Yeah, for sure. It's good to be back, JJ. And you're exactly right. The Windy City lived up to its reputation. For sure, this past weekend, it felt like fall. I mean, it was hoodie and long sleeve shirts and cold feet and all that stuff that you get in the cold weather. And you know, the playing conditions were not the best for sure. But Duke comes away with a win, and they beat a Big Ten opponent who has been on a pretty good winning streak and have won a whole lot of games over the last 12 months since Duke played them last. And so anytime you go on the road, doesn't matter who you're playing, but especially if it's a Big Ten or SEC school, something like that, coming away with a win is major.
The big takeaway, like if there is one for this game, what would that be to win a game like this, Josh?
The big takeaway to me, and I think Coach Diaz hit it in his post-game locker room speech as well as in his presser post-game, that is this team. This team did not give up. This team went through a lot of adversity. This team could have folded in the fourth quarter, and this team didn't. And so I believe, you know, similar to what we've seen over the last couple of seasons with Duke football, it's that David Philly has these guys in good physical condition. In the fourth quarter, they're still fine. They're not winded, and they're ready to go. And then this team has some fight in them. There's some fight in Malik Murphy. There's some fight in Jordan Moore, some fight in these guys. And so I think that was the biggest takeaway. It's like, hey, when their backs were against the wall and they could have folded, they punched back and they ended up winning the football game as a result.
Yeah, they stood tall when they needed to. They got the job done and pick up the second one of the season. I mean, from start to finish, just a really entertaining football game to watch. You were there in person. Such a unique environment as Northwestern is kind of going through stadium renovations, and it's this makeshift stadium that's been put together there right on the water. Northwestern fans showed out, but we heard on the TV broadcast, Jordan talked about the Duke fans that were in attendance. Just what was that like, man? That's got to be one of the most unique venues for anybody to ever watch a college football game in.
Well, first of all, I mean, their campus is right. I mean, you mentioned it's on the lake. It is beautiful. The tailgate scene, the official tailgate, is right on the water. They have really unique little portable 2-story double-decker tailgate. I don't know. It was really neat. And so the pregame atmosphere was solid. And then you go into the stadium, and they have actually, I feel like, they did as good a job as they possibly could as to make it like a nice experience. There were some like bars and areas like not in the field of play or not in the stands, but after you got through the ticketed area, there was some hangout spots with a lot of TVs and stuff like that. And then, they did their best with the portable seating. I will say this: it felt good. Like it felt like they put some money into it, and you can tell that they did. However, there was also the other feeling of you felt like you were somewhat in a high school, football stadium a little bit. By the way, Northwestern did not fill the stadium up, even though they're only seating 14, 15,000 fans. Duke's section was, I feel like, was pretty full. I feel like Duke fans were pretty loud. I don't know how well you could hear Duke fans on TV. But yeah, then the playing surface. I mean, that's been a lot of the discussion. Obviously, Duke has two significant injuries take place in this game, losing Jeremiah Hasely for the season with a lower leg injury, and then Jacquez Moore out for we're not sure how long. Not as long, not season ending, but I don't know how much of that had to do with the playing surface, but it definitely was not your typical. I tell you, it was no Brooks Field at Wallace Wade Stadium. That's for sure.
Yeah, but look, regardless of what the conditions were, we saw Duke come away with a victory at the end of the day, which is what we wanted to see. What this team proved on Saturday is that they're ready for any challenge. And they're going to have a couple coming up in ACC play here in just a little bit. So we'll take our first time out here on today's show. Then I want to talk a little bit more about the offense and defense specifics of this win with Josh Cox, and we'll do that when we come back here in just a moment. Locked On Blue Devils here today is brought to you by our friends over at 5 Hour Energy. It's the brand hardworking people like you and I have trusted for over 20 years to give us the alert, energized feeling needed to get through a busy and hectic day. You always know where to find 5 Hour Energy shots, right at the cash register at nearly every convenience, drug, and grocery store nationwide. Stock up on money-saving multi-packs to make sure you never run out of delicious, energizing 5 Hour Energy shots. If you go to 5hourenergy.com, that is the number 5hourenergy.com, and get some 5 Hour Energy product today, you can use our promo code LOCKEDONCFB to receive 20% off your order. The offer, again, is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders. Go to 5hourenergy.com today. Use the promo code LOCKEDONCFB for 20% off. 5 Hour Energy is a proud sponsor of Locked On Blue Devils. Keep moving forward here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. I'm JJ Jackson. He's Josh Cox. Duke picks up the win over Northwestern. The offense really came alive in those overtime periods thanks to quarterback Malik Murphy. The offense, however, still continued to struggle running the football a little bit. What did you notice as we kind of continue to evaluate this rushing attack for the Blue Devils 2 games in?
Well, I think you have to take into consideration that definitely the talent level of the defense went up from week 1 to week 2 on the opposition. So Northwestern's defense obviously stout, and so you have to take that into consideration a little bit. You also have to realize that Jacquez Moore went out with an injury early on in the game, and so Star Thomas, I felt like, did a pretty decent job, with what he was assigned to do. Peyton Jones giving him a breather there every now and then as well. The one thing that it was mentioned on this week's podcast for Section 17 as well, and it's almost like, and I don't know if it's a scheme thing or a player thing or probably a little bit of both, but like understanding when to go north-south. I feel like there were a couple of times specifically this past Friday when I was watching the game in person where you could see the north-south hole open up and you could see it from the stands, but I don't know that that the running backs were seeing it, on the field of play. And so I'm not worried. I'm still not worried. I felt like the run game was a little bit better this week than it was week 1, and it was against a more difficult defense. But I would like to see our guys, get north-south a little bit quicker. And I don't know how that has to happen. I thought our offensive line did well. There were a couple of hiccups there on the line, a couple of kind of bad plays back-to-back, a penalty, and I think a sack given up and whatnot. But ultimately got their heads back where they needed to be. And really, Duke stayed in this game probably largely, in fact, due to their defense, to Duke's defense. But still, I think the run game was better this week than last week. I guess that's all I can really say about it.
Yeah, look, it's going to improve. I totally agree with you. I think as someone like Star Thomas gets more comfortable in this Duke offense, once the offensive line gets more and more reps, a team like UConn this week, Duke hopefully can run the football a little bit better. And they've been able to still win these games because the passing attack has been an added bonus. And that was the case once again, his second game as the quarterback for the Blue Devils. We saw Malik Murphy tear it up through the air once again, several touchdowns, took care of the football for the most part. What did you think of the passing attack?
Well, I'm glad. I am glad that it woke up there towards the end of the game. It was just an interesting, odd game. I don't know how to explain it. If you were there, it was like the wind was a factor, but then maybe it wasn't a factor, and like you couldn't really tell. But I will say this: something caused Coach Brewer to not throw a lot of deep balls during regulation, and I don't know what that was. I don't know if the arc that Malik gets on his passes kind of scared them off from calling that, because obviously the higher up you throw it, the more the wind is going to be a factor. But all that to say, Duke, really didn't throw the ball downfield. There's a lot of short passes, and then we get to overtime, and it was almost like, okay, we've been setting you up the whole game.
Here we go.
And quickly, first play they hit Jordan Moore. Malik, there's a dime to Jordan down kind of a seam route down the middle of the field.
What was that play like to watch in person, Josh? Because on television, just on the money, what a dime that was.
Well, it kind of took us back real quick, because we had, the offense had not been moving the ball. They moved the ball a little bit at the very last there in the fourth quarter to set the field goal to send it to overtime, but we hadn't seen it. And, when you see that, when you see him confidently, dropping back and launching that ball to the middle of the field, it kind of took me for surprise quickly there, 25-yard touchdown. And then it was like that just ignited it, because Duke then received the ball again for the second set of overtime. And you had the connection with Malik Murphy and Eli Pankow for their second touchdown of the game. Eli Pankow's third of the season, which is also another storyline. I know we've spoken about it, but incredible to see Eli Pankow back on the football field, having fun. We pointed this out, the same I don't know if your listeners have seen this, but there was the interception that Northwestern got. The defensive back threw the ball at Manny Diaz over on the sideline. Pretty disrespectful. I thought it was interesting. That was the same guy Eli Pankow caught the touchdown on it in the overtime and did the too small celebration over him. So, a little bit of karma there for Duke. It's nice when it winds up in your favor.
I was stunned when he tossed that ball back at Manny Diaz. I was like,
so
okay.
We didn't see it.
Wow.
It was, where we were sitting, we didn't notice it. And then I saw it afterwards, and I'm like, oh, that's no, you can't do it. Especially to a guy like Manny. It'd be different if it was like a different type of personality.
Sure.
And it's like, okay, I get it. But Manny's not that guy.
Yeah.
He's not that guy.
Yeah.
So
anyway. They learned. Duke comes out on top. And how about Eli? 2 catches, both for touchdowns. Pretty good day at the office.
And then of course Jordan Moore again. 121 yards or whatever it was, a touchdown. He was barely out of the end zone in week 1 by just his knee. Yeah. And it got in the end zone this time. He had another great game. He's off to a really, really hot start.
All right, let's get to the defense. Before we get there, though, your perspective, the bunny rabbit delay that took place from where you were standing or watching, what did all this look like to you? Were you aware that this was happening?
Oh, yeah, it was right in front of us. It was right in front of the Duke section. So it was probably going on longer than what the TV.
That's what Jordan had said. Yeah.
I'm assuming it took a little bit of time for the cameramen and people to get on that, but. The rabbit would be in the end zone, and then it would take off like it was going to get to the 5 or 10 yard line, and we're like, oh no, because the play was coming our way, and I think one time the officials even blew the play dead before the snap because they thought the rabbit was going to make it to where the players were. So that was interesting. the Wildcat, the Northwestern mascot, tried to
That
help
was
corral it.
hilarious. Yeah, that was good
Um,
television to watch.
yeah, for sure. So that was, hey, listen, it was interesting because that happens, and then Duke kind of, turns
Yeah.
everything around. The momentum was not in their favor, and all of a sudden, Duke ties the game up and wins it in double overtime.
Yeah, the mascot for Northwestern's trying to corral this bunny rabbit, much like the Duke defense was trying to corral that Northwestern rushing attack. I mean, you look at the numbers, Northwestern averages like 3.5 yards a carry, just crazy good stuff, Josh. And you take away that 44-yard run that Cam Porter had for Northwestern in the first quarter, that number really dips off. I mean, Duke did an amazing job. We'll use that word again, corralling the rushing attack for Northwestern.
Yeah, on the defensive side, I completely agree. Coming in, you obviously knew Mike Wright was going to be a running quarterback. And so Duke had to be prepared for anything he could throw it at them. And then they broke off the big run, but then Duke really kind of shorted up. They gave up a couple of scrambles to Wright, a couple of first downs that I was a little miffed by that he was able to get. But at the end of the day, the Duke defense came to play again. And I thought it was fitting that the Duke defense was made the play at the end. Chandler Rivers making the play in the backfield on that 3rd and 1 that for some reason they decided to run that sweep and go horizontal instead of going vertical with the play call on the run there. But Chandler Rivers, it's amazing. An 8-yard loss on a 3rd and 1. That is pretty insane. And then you had, pass breakups. Josh Pickett had a couple. Terry Moore with an interception. Chandler Rivers an interception in his hands, and I still don't know what happened with that because then I see it drop. But he had another interception. He had an interception there. He could have, obviously capitalized on. But yeah, I mean, the defense was, didn't have the gaudy sack numbers like you had in week 1, but Duke now after week 2 leads the league and leads the country in tackles for loss.
Yeah, big stuff from that Duke defense to stifle Northwestern in the manner that they did. Now Duke gets set for a game against UConn back at home. We'll take one more timeout on the program today, and then Josh Cox is back with us when we come back. Hey, Locked On Blue Devils fans, I want to take a moment to give you a heads up on the brand new mobile game that I think you're going to love as much as I do. It's Ultimate College Football HC. In this amazing game and simulation, you get to step into the shoes of a head coach and lead your school to college football glory. Can you imagine actually being the head coach of the Duke Blue Devils? It's awesome. From recruiting players and hiring coaching staffs to overseeing training camps and handling school scholarships, you control every crucial detail of your program. It's all in your hands. Will you be able to handle the pressure? That's the question that you get to answer. Ultimate College Football HC is completely free, has no ads, it is 100% playable offline. Of course, we've got a special offer as well. For Locked On Blue Devils fans, if you use the promo code LOCKEDONCFB, all caps, inside the game store to receive a free boost to your program. Make sure to take advantage of this perk as it will get your team off to a strong start. Once again, to download the game, just visit ultimate-cfb.com, ultimate-cfb.com, or look it up on the app stores. Ultimate College Football HC, begin your coaching legacy today. A proud sponsor of Locked On Blue Devils. All right, we're wrapping up today's episode of the program. Josh Cox is here from Duke Football Talks Section 17 podcast. What is that show? What is that podcast? How can people get involved?
Yeah, so we cover Duke football, exclusively Duke football. And so this is obviously the big part of the season for us. The beginning, first month or so is, everybody's excited. Everybody, all the possibilities are still out there, and it is so with Duke football 2-0 heading into week 3. But we do weekly podcasts that release on either late Monday night or early Tuesday morning. DukeFootballTalk.com is our website. YouTube this week we're giving away 4 free tickets to the UConn game through our YouTube channel. So if you watch this week's episode on YouTube, there'll be a code word that pops up. You put that in the comments and you're entered into the win. So just having a lot of fun. We try to have fun with it and support Duke football. We try to stay in the know. In fact, one thing that I missed on our previous segment, JJ, was speaking of in the know. I believe it was about a month ago that you asked me who's going to be a breakout person on defense that we don't know about yet.
Yeah,
And I mentioned the name Alex Howard, and Alex Howard leads the team in tackles after the first 2 weeks. Transfer from Youngstown State.
Good job by you. Yes.
Did a couple months there did a couple months of prison time in College Station. With the former head coach of Duke, and then came to Duke after the spring when the spring portal opened. And so really cool for Alex. So yeah, sorry, I forgot to mention that in the defensive segment.
No, he's been awesome to watch and a big time playmaker for the Blue Devils. So with UConn coming up on Saturday, what stands out to you, man?
Well, they got curb stomped in the first week by Maryland, and obviously we're so early in the season we do not know how good this Maryland football team will be. And then they played, like, I believe Brian was telling me, they're like a FCS independent Merrimack. So they played, I don't know if it's like a prep school or high school or whatever it is, but it was not a lot of competition. So it's really difficult to get a feel for them based upon those two games. Now, what we do know is they give up a lot of yardage. They give up a lot of rushing yards. We mentioned the rushing attack in the previous segment. I believe this is a week that Duke could, capitalize on this opponent. Looking ahead to week 4, I think Middle Tennessee State would be similar in that vein. And so I would look for Duke to be able to run the ball more. Ultimately, Maryland put up an ungodly number of yards passing and rushing against them. And so I'm not saying that we're going to dismantle them as bad as Maryland did. But I do think, what's the spread? 16.5, I think.
16.5 with our friends.
16.5, I think that's warranted. Duke went up there last year in some nasty weather and dismantled them for 41-17 or something like that last season. And so I look for more of the same this year. I'd love to see Malik. I would love to see the run game, with 150 yards rushing, and I'd love to see Malik go over 300 yards passing and throw a few touchdowns. That would be really nice.
Yeah, just an all-out attack for this offense before their final non-conference game at MTSU. So first Saturday game of the season as well.
It is a Saturday. Thank goodness. They do have a receiver. I think his last name is Bell. And Duke had a little bit of issue. I don't know. I think it was under control, but AJ Henning this past Friday night, the number 1 receiver from Northwestern, did get a number of catches. And so that's one thing that I'm keeping my eye on is, they have a dominant receiver, and can Duke, keep him in check? And so that'll be something for fans, to kind of keep your eye on. And also we have to understand and realize this team is coached by Jim Mora. He knows football. He's been around the game forever. And so, I'm not saying in any way by my earlier statement that Duke needs to take this game lightly. I just feel like this could be a game where the offense breaks out.
Yeah. The Duke and UConn game last year lined up quite well with the Cooper Flagg storyline with his visit there to UConn when Duke football was in town. Now the Blue Devils host. If this means good news in the Boozer twins recruitment, I'd be perfectly fine with that, Josh.
Yeah, that would be nice. I still remember the football social media post after the football win was flag planted with 2 G's, and he wound up committing to Duke. So maybe we'll see some basketball magic connected to this week.
Pretty good stuff there. Well, Josh, thank you for the time as always. Really want people to go check out the Section 17 podcast, and we'll do this again sometime soon. Okay.
JJ, thanks for having me on, man. Go Duke.
All right, that's Josh Cox. He joins us on the show here today. Thanks so much for your support as always. That's going to do it for our program. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and podcast feed as well. As always, go Duke. I'll talk to you tomorrow. My name is JJ Jackson. Thank you and good day.